Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the BDPA Tech and Career Talks. I am your host and our National Tech and Career Talk leader, Devin Jenkins. I serve as a U.S. and Canada commercial IT success manager at GE Healthcare, and also am the founder and CEO of Share the Vibes LLC. So glad to have you all with us. I'm excited for today's conversation as we're kicking off Women's History Month. I'm excited to have a panel of four amazing women discussing how they're using technology to advance, some institutions very dear to BDPA and this community at large, and that of our historically Black colleges and universities. So I'm excited. I'm wearing my Miles College Alpha shirt today, representing a little bit since we talking about HBCUs. So I had to come in and show my love because as an HBCU product, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. So glad to have each of you with us today. For those who may be new to BDPA as well as our platform, just want to give you a little bit of an overview of our organization as well as the Tech and Career Talks. So BDPA is Black Data Processing Associates. The organization was founded in 1975 as a means for continuing to develop and sustain a technology pipeline within the African American community. So we have a focus on youth, especially middle and high school students, teaching them computer skills, programming skills, professional development, preparing them for careers in the IT sector. We also have opportunities at the collegiate level for students to present research and things around IT and various technology topics. Then also we are formed for development, networking, and continuous learning and growth for professionals in the IT industry. Our mantra is advancing careers from the classroom to the boardroom. So we're glad to have you with us. This is our Tech and Career Talk. So these happen on the second and fourth Friday of each month. We have a range of speakers, a range of topics. Some speakers are senior executives. I think we had the CIO Deloitte, a couple of years ago. Some speakers are new in their careers. Some are entrepreneurs and everything in between. So we have something for everyone. Some topics are more hard technology related. Some are more on the softer skill side, some things that you can use in your careers. But either way, we have something that you'll benefit from and something that you can share with others. So at the end of the call, we'll share a link to our website, which is bdpa.org/tech and career talks, which allows you to see this call afterwards, as well as our previous talks. So if you ever want to see tech and career talks that we've been talking about, all of them from, I believe, the last 3 or 4 years are on our YouTube channel at National BDPA, as well as our website. So share this with someone afterwards. Go back and watch it yourself. Shout out to all the students watching in Milwaukee. Glad to have you all with us today as you kick off your weekends. Also near and dear to me, I started out working with the Milwaukee chapter. So glad you all are with us today and hope you enjoyed the conversation. So at this time, I'm going to turn the floor over to Amara with Vanguard Consulting Group, who is our partner in today's conversation. If you've been around, we work together pretty often. So it's going to be a great treat. So I'm going to get out of the way, and Amara, I'll let you take us from here.
Thank you so much, Devin. We really appreciate it. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Amara, Tennessee, and I am the Director of Programs for Vanguard Consulting Group, LLC, representing our company, as well as our CEO, Akil Bektemba. I am so elated to have been chosen to kick off this dynamic conversation about the 1890 Project with this powerful group of incredibly intelligent and accomplished Black women. Today we have with us Anita Jarman from the G Project, Anastasia Jackson and Jenaba Sow from WENITE. And as a team, our three unique organizations form the 1890 Project. We are a powerful public interest technology initiative that blends genius, ingenuity, historical validity, and relevance of HBCU research and revolutionary action. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started with today's conversation. Throughout the discussion, I will be fielding as many questions and answers as time allows. So please provide any questions you have for our incredible panelists in the chat below, and we will try to get through as many of them as possible. So with that, I'd like to start and bring our speakers forward. And so given the focus on the 1890 Project's public interest technology initiative, we have a goal to foster a supportive digital ecosystem for HBCU communities. So we have a couple of questions that we're going to get started with. Firstly, with our guests, can you all briefly introduce yourself and your organization and share how it aligns with the ethos and objectives of the 1890 project?
Sure. So I'm Anita Jarman. Thank you for having our collective together in one place. I think it's like the first time we're able to do this in a public setting. So I'm thanking everyone for joining us, but also for my team being here. This is truly special to me. I'm Anita Jarman. I am a Delaware State University graduate, Georgetown graduate, and currently I'm a student at Alabama State studying to receive my PhD in educational leadership. And I am the CEO and founder of the Geely Project.
Oop, I was muted. Jenaba, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So my name is Jenaba Sow. I'm the CTO and co-founder, so Chief Technology Officer of WENITE Inc. We are building Sage, our flagship product, to help the administration heavy lift of HBCU communities. So our technology will power the 1890 project and furthermore, the HBCU community and research in that way. So I'll let us really dive into it later, but I guess I'll pass the mic off to my CEO and co-founder, Anastasia.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anastasia Jackson. I'm the CEO and co-founder of WENITE. Once again, I just want to also say thank you for allowing us this platform, and I hope that the insights that we're able to give are beneficial to you all. So Jenaba explained WENITE very well, and yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I know that our audience is really in store for some innovation, genius, and excitement around the 1890 project. So I think let's go ahead and get started and introduce to our guests what the 1890 project is. So Anita, can you kind of walk us through what inspired the inception of the 1890 project, and how does its vision honor the legacy of our ancestors and propelling HBCU communities forward in the future?
Absolutely. Think about it like this, with this, overarching thought. Education is a human right. Everything that we discuss from here on out is going to be about how every individual on this planet, no matter where you come from, what color your skin is, you have a right to educate yourself. So think about also the year 1890, which is in our name. The year 1890 was significant because it was the first time that the federal government invested in education, higher education for colored people. This was before the turn of the century, right after the Civil War, which was in 1865, after the Reconstruction period in 1876, and during a very interesting moment of Jim Crow. It was interesting because it came right after Reconstruction, where Blacks used the Freedmen's Bureau and just the methods of teaching and educating ourselves before the Civil War. They were educated colored people, free and enslaved. We used the Freedmen's Bureau during that time to build our schools. There was over 4,000 schools that were developed during the Reconstruction era. So right after the Compromise of 1877, in 1890, the federal government made like I said, an appropriation for segregated schools for colored people to learn agricultural mechanics science. The beauty of, in the midst of all of this Reconstruction to getting set back with Jim Crow laws, in the midst of this, we identify our HBCUs by genius. We know that Black people have contributed a ridiculous amount of intel, labor, just anything about human sociology to our country and to the world at large. So in 1890, the name 1890, or the year 1890, just commemorates what we were able to do and establish, and the genius that we were able to develop on our HBCU campuses during a very crucial moment in our progress, coming out of the Civil War, coming out of Reconstruction, and navigating through Jim Crow. So the 1890 institutions, we have 19, what we now know as historically Black colleges and universities, but 19 land grant schools for colored people that were established throughout the United States, Washington, D.C., and the U.S. Virgin Islands. At these land grant institutions, we have, a myriad of different subjects that are taught like at any typical college, but the fact of the matter is these are state governed schools in terms of their appropriations that they receive from the Department of Agriculture. And more relevant in our moment right now, back in September, we found out that through the Department of Agriculture and Department of Education, that our HBCU land grant institutions were severely underfunded for over 30 years, from 1987 to 2020. $15 billion were in underfunded research was identified. And so the leaders at our Department of Agriculture and Department of Education took the initiative to send letters to each of the state governors where we have these land grant institutions to tell them that you are undervaluing and underappreciating research at our research-bearing institutions that were established just for us. So the 1890 Project is pulling a community together of HBCU researchers where we know that they are undermining our genius. We now want to articulate it, and we're definitely using technology to navigate that ship. So the 1890 Project is definitely paying homage to our ancestors. We can talk about Dr. Carver's work and how he used Tuskegee as framework for a lot of different agricultural or skilled labor academic programs throughout the United States, not just at HBCUs, but this is definitely an articulation of what our ancestors were trying to tell us, like leaving us breadcrumbs about the fact that we were an educated race or educated group of people. So the 1890 Project is a testament to that through HBCU research.
What a beautiful story and inception. And I know coming off of Black History Month and into Women's History Month, I think it's so exciting to see people who are so passionate about investing in ourselves, investing in the genius that you see. It's wonderful to have 3 HBCU graduates joining me here today. I think your experience is really pivotal in the development of a program like this and very specific to the needs of these land grant institutions. But Anita, you talked a lot about supporting genius, and I want to dig into that a little bit deeper. So Jenaba, can you tell us a little bit about the concept of supporting genius at our HBCUs and supporting our students and faculty? So how does the 1890 Project foster an environment where genius can flourish?
Absolutely. So I stand before you today, honestly enriched by my experiences as an undergraduate researcher at Howard University. I participated at the HCI laboratory under Dr. Gloria Washington for a number of years while I was there. And just that experience really propelled my interest in research and the idea that HBCU genius can start at any stage, in the classroom, outside of the classroom as an entrepreneur now, and my endeavors with the 1890 Project and WENITE Inc. So it's just really exciting to be a part of all this. The 1890 Project is a groundbreaking initiative. It symbolizes a significant leap towards integrating the rich history and innovative future of HBCU communities. Our platform with SAGE and the 1890 Project aligns closely with everything that we're doing here. The vision is to create transformative opportunity and support digital ecosystems for HBCU scholars and educators. So when we think about geniuses, it's literally anyone that has an innovative idea that's a part of the HBCU ecosystem and is building something for us by us. When we talk about like AI and the resources that it's pulling from, we really need to promote transparency, accountability, and inclusivity in AI technology. And that's one of the core tenets that drives this project and the creation of SAGE. This direct synergy really is the ethos that elevates the historical and future significance of HBCU communities as we continue to show up in technology and in our geniuses in all different ways. I talk a lot about tech because I'm a computer scientist, but I know that we have geniuses in all different industries, and we have to support each other in everything that we do. So I'm just really, really glad that we're doing that through our algorithms, through our platforms, and through talks like this today.
Absolutely. I think that was such an eloquent way to put the importance of investing in that genius and finding it in different niches, different industries and areas. I think we've really created a program that supports so many different people in their endeavors. One thing I want to mention, part of the title of today's chat is the 1890 Project, the movement and the ancestors plan. And before we get too far into some of the tech and development of the program, I want to talk a little bit about this because that title suggests there's a really deep-rooted history and historical significance, especially within the Black and African American community. And Anita, you mentioned before Dr. Carver and his genius. So can you elaborate a little bit more on how the theme of the Ancestors Plan is reflected in the 1890 project's initiatives and goals?
Yes, and I'll do that briefly, but I also want WENITE to really tap into how close we are with the future, like how we're connecting, it all connects the dots. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds because I can't. I'm literally geeking because I know WENITE is going to follow up and be like, and this is how we bring it full circle. So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna set it up. I'm gonna get you guys on base. So, so Dr. Carver is probably the most inspiring person in this project outside of my collective in terms of being the narrator of why we're doing what we're doing. I found myself researching what he set up at Tuskegee, and in Tuskegee, he was the first agricultural department head. So he pretty much structured Tuskegee's agricultural department. How he got there, though, was through Dr. Booker T. Washington. Now, Dr. Washington was a graduate of Hampton, what we know Hampton University, Hampton Institute. And Hampton was already established to teach skilled labor and industrial labor for African Americans during that time. And this is before the Civil War. So we were already educating ourselves at a higher education level. We can't really call it college at that time because a lot of schools were normal schools and they were pretty much teaching us how to learn literacy, reading and writing. So just the very basics. But he used that same mission down in Tuskegee. And so while, this is about also alignment, and I call it divine alignment, but while Dr. Booker T. Washington was the president of Tuskegee, he heard about a phenomenal scientist, a Black man at Iowa State University. Now, Iowa State at that time, and still is a land-grant institution. And in fact, it was the first school in 1862, which was the first land-grant act called the Morrill Act that established higher education in agriculture and mechanic sciences in the United States. So the first federal investment for higher education, period, was in 1862. Then in 1890, it was the first for colored people. So I want to make that distinction. Iowa State is a land-grant institution. Dr. George Washington Carver was the first Black student, the first Black graduate, the first Black faculty member, the first Black grad student, but it was a land-grant institution. So think about how he was able to be at the first as the first, and he made significant contributions to their agricultural department. In his transition into being a faculty member, Dr. Booker T. Washington reached out to him by letter and said, listen, we need to teach us about agricultural sciences, and we need the best of the best to be here. I know you're not going to have the title, you're not going to get paid, but if you want to do it for the betterment of our race, let's go. He left that faculty position, which was, in this time, nobody, there's no black people at predominantly white institutions as faculty members. So he left an opportunity of a lifetime to start what he did at in terms of structuring the agriculture department at Tuskegee. So he gets down to Tuskegee, and everything we know about Dr. Carver in terms of the peanut, all the recipes from the peanut, the sweet potato, the milkweed, anything that he developed at Tuskegee is published in the Library of Congress. You can check it out online, but all of the products, hundreds of products that he created, he did at Tuskegee Institute. He narrates this in letters. It's public information, and I anyone who wants to be inspired about their own purpose, and if they have a fascination about something, and I have to say this as a testament to his genius, he really trusted who he called the creator, which we articulate as God or the Most High. And in his writings, he names, he uses these names for God, and he says that God told him how to take the peanut apart and put it back together. So when he testified before the Ways and Means Committee in Washington, D.C. about how he did what he did, and he credited to the Bible, they were shocked. How does this man create all this? It's nothing about the peanut in the Bible. He said, well, the creator of the peanut is the one who told me that I can't ask to understand what to do with the peanut. And so the rest is history. He literally revitalize the economy, the agricultural economy in the state of Alabama. They still use some of his practices in terms of soil conversion with the peanut in Alabama because of what he did at Tuskegee. So just to know that his science was coupled with spirituality, and he used a very severely underfunded agricultural program down there was remarkable in itself. And I must say also that the other HBCU land grant, the Alabama's unique because they have two land grant institutions, two HBCU land grant institutions, is Alabama A&M as well. So we definitely want to shout them out as being a part of the first. But Dr. Carver was able to do some really remarkable things. And the way that we are appreciating his genius is recreating his lab. And this is where WENITE's expertise and brilliance and vision comes to life, because what if we were in the lab with Dr. Carver when the creator was telling him how to take the peanut apart and put it back together? And he notably says he did not use textbooks when he was in his lab. It was purely inspiration. So what we are doing, and this is where I want WENITE to really, take the wheel. What we're doing is recreating that experience for HBCU researchers.
Absolutely. That is such an inspiring story. And I think not only stepping out on faith, but trusting your innovation and your own creativity and being in a space that fosters that is so incredible. And so on the digital side, WENITE, what can you tell us about how you see the 1890 project addressing some of these needs and what you're planning to do using tech, AI, blockchain to really facilitate some of this research?
Yes. So to what you're saying, I also want to talk about what you're saying about the now, like the HBCU students now, the alumni now, the researchers now. I mean, if there's any researchers or students or alum in the room, when is the last time you were able to know what other people were working on in real time? Usually you find out, like Carver, I don't know how many years we found out later. And even to this day, just being a researcher, you might not even find out that somebody's using your research or reading your research 10 years later, right? So with this digital ecosystem that 1890 is proposing, what it does is it takes away that time gap. It takes away even the challenges that you might face during your research process, and it really speeds it up by using AI. You're more intuitive, so if you're researching, we're going to use Carver because that's who we were talking about. If you're researching on the peanut or any agricultural things that he was focused on, you will quickly find out oh, such and such is too, right? And now I can go talk to this person and we can combine this research, and it will, collaboration collapse time. So it will be able to further along our research quicker. Not only that, with the blockchain piece, which Amara kind of touched on briefly, is you also get to be able to keep that ownership of your research. So just because you're collaborating with somebody doesn't mean that you're giving up ownership. I know that's a big thing in research now. You go to the schools and you do your research, and then they're like, oh, well, we're gonna own this, and we gave you this time, we gave you these resources, but we're gonna own what you're doing. That doesn't have to be the case, and it shouldn't, so that you can continue to further along that research throughout, however many people want to work with it or whatever you want to do with it, or monetize it or track it, whatever. And so, yeah, that's just really how this digital ecosystem, to piggyback off of what Anita was saying, to bring it to now and to the forefront of where we are with this advanced technology, the possibilities are really limitless. As researchers, as students, you do research all the time, but it will be, even greater if you knew that you had hundreds of people doing that same research, and what would you do with that?
Absolutely. That really sets us up for this really beautiful exchange of information, right? Like you said, it closes that gap and the time that it takes between someone starting their research and getting through, years and years of information and whatever else they're doing, it shortens that gap. And I think in a world where we are so connected and we're on the internet, we're using so many tech resources in our day-to-day life, it only makes sense that we're able to apply it to our research and further the initiatives that people are doing, especially when we're looking at the advancement of people of color. I think that's a great place to start, and that's really exciting. Can we discuss a little bit more about the importance of knowledge sharing and really empowering our HBCUs? And what does the 1890 project do to facilitate this?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay. Well, we recognize the critical need for the digital ecosystem. Not only does it support like the natural ingenuity that's found within our institutions, because we all have this natural brilliance, but it enhances the connectivity across all the institutions. By partnering with the 1890 project, our technology is at the forefront of democratizing AI technology. Yes, I love the question, how can I help? You can give us your research. We can use that literally to train our platform and give you credit for the information that you're giving us, which will then in turn empower so many other people to learn about what you're doing and then think of their own ideas off the bat. When we break down the barriers of knowledge transfer, we create this open and collective platform where HBCU members can share, innovate, and grow together. I will reflect again on my undergraduate research days, but unless you have a personal connection to someone at a different HBCU, it is really difficult to understand what's happening at our different campuses. We do have conferences, and I imagine our technology also empowering those conferences to really create the follow through with making those connections in person to the digital space. And then I'll pass it off to Anita, because I know you can really go in on this.
I think we were both excited at the same time, but I definitely thank you for queuing that up. Research in itself is an industry. Knowledge sharing in itself is an industry, and research plays a part in that industry. So as higher education institutions, we're a part of that market. And when we're talking about systemically being underfunded, when HBCUs are players in that market, we're not playing with the same tools. We don't have the same strengths. So when the unity part is the strength that we are articulating here, we want to show that the brilliance is happening regardless if society acknowledges it by some designation or some type of organization that, says these are the best research institutions. Before we get to that point where we're chasing that title, we want to say that it's already present. The research is already being done. It's just stifled because it's underfunded. So when we show as a collective that this research is still being conducted, but it's missing that funding piece or that next step or that training piece that our faculty need, then we now expose it on a grander level, but we're still showing you that the research is being done as a collaborative unit. So understand the economics of it as well in regard to why research is important to our higher education institutions. And when we approach the entire industry or the entire value of research, we have to approach it as market participants in an industry. And so it becomes extremely valuable for us to spend in research dollars at HBCUs just as much as it is to get federal grants or private organizations to fund our research. It's a gold mine if we treat it as such, that these are valuable outputs from our educational institutions. But what we're doing is bringing it together as a collective so we can all see the genius that's being operated on our HBCU campuses.
Absolutely. That is so exciting to hear. I think the steps that have led to this point have been really exciting. And I think when we talk about this, even Jenaba, you talked about, engaging one HBCU when you're at another, and how there might not always be a really clear line of communication, and that's how the 1890 project really alleviates some of the stressors and the pain points that exist there. One thing that's really interesting about collaboration is it doesn't just happen within the institutions. It can also happen within different fields of studies and different interests. So how can collaboration across disciplines As a cornerstone of the 1890 project, how do you see an interdisciplinary approach to enhancing the platform and our impact?
That's industry. It's an industry approach. I'll say it like that. In colleges, you have academic majors. In our world, we have industries. So if there's research that's being conducted from an education and humanities professor at Delaware State University, but it relates to biology sciences and teaching the next generation of botanists. I'm just throwing this out there, and this is not factual, but in this world, we're looking at that botanist. We're not just looking at the fact that it came from an education in humanities program. We're looking at subject matter. We're looking at a pipeline. We're seeing that there's research about how to teach biology and botany to the next generation, but it's also from an educator, an educator of educators, a faculty member of education. You get what I'm saying? So we're not limiting it to just, oh, this is coming from the education department at Delaware State University. It's touching education just as much as it's touching biology. So technology, it has a beautiful way of pattern recognizing what's going on when we operate between systems. And this is where WENITE's expertise comes in. So when we see that our research is touching different industries, we're not limiting ourselves to academic programs and just bragging about, the graduate outputs of our academic programs. It's something to brag about, but it's also showing industry impact. A perfect example of this, I know I use Delaware State, but I just spoke with the biology club at Delaware State University, and I just wanted to understand what these students were, doing during the pandemic, and just, going through the pandemic while you're in college and they're about to graduate in the spring. And what I learned was that their experiments and their projects and research that are helping them get into PhD programs is not just about biology, it's about forensic science and DNA testing. So it's criminal justice just as much as it is biology. It's about breast cancer research. So it's just as much about public health and social sciences as it is about health and STEM related subject matter. So you see these interdisciplinary opportunities become industry, impacting different industries. So I think we look at it from an approach of how we find the value and what this research can contribute to a certain industry, and we play in the economics of that realm.
Absolutely. I love that. And I definitely think that contributes to the sustainability of the program as well. We're already at the inception able to integrate different disciplines and different studies. And I think the longevity of this program, it exists forever. We can think 500 years in the future and still have a development that's really significant in our society. So very excited about that. So what can people, individuals, organizations who are maybe outside of the HBCU community contribute to and benefit from the 1890 project's digital ecosystem? What is there for people who are outside of this kind of almost bubble that we're building within?
Yeah, so honestly, even if you're not in the direct HBCU ecosystem, you're definitely still a part of the community. When you look at, I want to say Black research, anything that's impacting the Black community, it's not solely coming from HBCUs. I do know that HBCUs are like pillars, like they're literally the pillars of the Black community's education system, period. But that's not everything. That's just the pillars. There's a whole foundation on top of that. There's a whole building on top of that, a whole community on top of that. So if you're outside of the HBCU organization, you can still be a part of the 1890 collective. You can still send in research to ethically train this AI to match with others who are working on the similar things that you're working on. I know I saw someone in the chat saying that their daughter is did plenty of research on educating those who are in STEM, right? How many lives, it's at Indiana University. I'm not sure, I don't think that's a HBCU, but like that's the point of which I'm saying, like, how many lives, how many other people are working on similar things, or who even just want to go into teaching STEM who would benefit from that research, right? So yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Come to homecoming. Come to homecoming. You will not miss out. Um, so yeah, like that's to answer your question. There's, I mean, geez, I keep saying endless possibilities, but I mean, yeah, we're just gonna keep saying it.
Absolutely. And how great is it that we know that the impact has endless possibilities? I think that's something really exciting on the development side, and then also looking from the user side, that the connection and, you know, having research that's solidified and cemented in a system like this, you know, that for years, centuries to come, that this will all continue to be available and continue to lay the foundation of the way that we educate our people of color, our Black people. So I think that's super exciting. And while go ahead.
I wanted to add one more part because I
No
start thinking,
problem.
you say technology and my brain went boop. Because this is making me interested in to see, like, with the blockchain aspect, like to be able to track and see like where is this research coming from, and then the impact that it's having on our community afterwards, you know, down the line. So I would, like, for instance, back to this comment, you know, how many teachers will this touch? And what is the outcome of the students from those teachers? Like, how did they grow? So like you see the domino effect, and that's the power of the blockchain too, because it's on a ledger that cannot be tampered with. Like, it's very secure, so you'll be able to track it, you know, forever. And then even if, you know, tech melts away, it can be printed too, so you will have it still in books. Yeah, okay, that was my little deep dive nerding out.
No, that's perfect. I love it. I love to think about it and really having our history cemented. I think the contributions more often than not of Black people have been undermined, undervalued, and misrepresented as we hear about it and we learn about it. And so having something like this really cement our contributions to society, and more specifically, our contributions to our community, I think having that cemented and kind of eternalized is something that's really excited, because there's nothing that can dispute what we've done and where we've come from. We talked a little bit about security, and I want to give Jenaba an opportunity to talk about how does our platform ensure security and the integrity of all of the shared academic insights and research findings and things like that.
Yes, so our amazing advisor, Dr. Noble over at UCLA, the author of Algorithms of Oppression, she has had the personal experience of her research being tapped into by OpenAI, which is like the leading AI technology in industry right now. The issue with that is she was not, in my understanding, talked to about them using her research. There was no conversation. There's no, honestly, any citing in that. She's just able to see through the responses that it gives that, yes, this is literally my work that's being tapped into. So the difference that SAGE and the 1890 Project is focusing on is we want to give our Black researchers, our Black innovators credit for their input. And you don't have to be a PhD student to be able to do that. Literally anyone who has a unique thought or innovative idea, we want to track that and give you that credit. To Anastasia's point, the conversation we were just having, it is tracking the domino effect of one person's idea and seeing how it impacts 10 more, and then 100 more, and then following that like 500 years down the line. So we're using blockchain technology and ethical algorithms to be able to use the human input, train our AI based on that human input, because we're literally doing this with Black researchers and with Black innovators, unlike other technologies today, giving you credit for that, a space on the blockchain so you can see where your contribution is, who it impacted, who learned from that, who's citing your work, what it created in the future, and who is even writing additional things based on that. So you can see any co-writers, like literally everyone that was a part of that will be mentioned. So I think that's what's really cool about our security and intellectual property. It is yours, and we're just making it accessible and amplifying it to the world.
That is really so exciting and such a unique approach to an issue that I think we've seen since research began. And so having a solution that's being presented and being presented in a way that really supports Black academia is really exciting. So with kind of that conversation with blockchains, I am not the tech side of this program. I love the genius we have, but that is not my calling. And so for me, blockchain technology, it's super innovative, but for me, it's very complex in my understanding of it sometimes. So how can you ensure the accessibility of the 1890 project and ease of use of the platform for all the members of the HBCU community and those who are outside of it as well?
Yes, so that's a great question. I feel like Jenaba, she hit on it, like with how blockchain is going to be used and what it would show you. Especially the part about it's being built with our users. So it takes, customer discovery never ends. So it's a simple conversation with our users, with these researchers, with these Black innovators of being like, okay, what does your day-to-day process look like now? And then we want to make it as simple and as simple transition as like what you see on a day-to-day. If it starts off as you looking at spreadsheets, which I just can't look at spreadsheets, but if it starts off with you looking at spreadsheets and you understand Excel, then okay, well, let's mirror that for you. It's really individualized to the person and to the individual. So that's literally as simple as it can get. Now, when it comes to the complexity of blockchain technology, you don't have to worry about that. That's on the back end. It's not what you're going to see. You'll just be able to see, like Jennifer said, your name next to it, how it's being used. You'll be able to track it, seeing your own data analytics. But even then, like, do you prefer graphs? Do you prefer it in Word? Do you prefer it in like with language models? Do you prefer it in just regular talk? So it's based on the user, and it's really within our customer discovery that we build that out for you.
I want to take
Go ahead.
to the WENITE team member who's on the call. I see you, Raven. Raven is our UI UX researcher. She's going to be the one to really make everything that we're building here at 1890 super user focused. To just echo what Anastasia was saying, we will customize the experience to your needs. The complications of blockchain, that's on us. The front end will be familiar, it will be friendly, and it'll be useful. And that's just where our focus is.
That's so cool. And I'm so glad to hear that it really is user-centered and user-focused. I think having your data presented to you in a way that is the most digestible or your preference, I think, is a great way to kind of structure it, because it gives so much more ownership of, this is my data. I understand how it's being used, and I get those analytics in return. I think it's such a cool approach to what was once a complex issue has now been simplified by you wonderful, wonderful ladies. So what are some of the projected outcomes of the 1890 project? We have a digital ecosystem that's highlighting our genius in the HBCU community, but what are some of the tangible things you all are looking for in the success of the program?
This is honestly an extension of the blockchain. The blockchain in itself, the concept of blockchain came from a group of individuals or collective thought that said, this thing is so valuable that it needs to be decentralized so that no one else can govern it except for the collective. So blockchain in itself is a representation of what we're actually trying to build, which is the power of what can be produced through a collective unit. And the beauty of it is it's decentralized, meaning no one HBCU, no one entity, no one government can ever control it to where the research and all of the tangible outputs, whether it's publications to data reports, whatever the outcomes or the outputs are, no one can say this is mine. Because blockchain shows who actually started it, who gave the inception of an idea or who built upon an idea. And the very important part about research is advancing it. It's one thing if we just say, here's the facts and figures of this year, and here's the theory of why it happened because of X, Y, and Z, but it's another thing for a pandemic to happen and someone to further that research that was done before the pandemic about that thing and use their genius and their experience, and then build upon that research to advance it and say, well, if there's ever something as devastating as a pandemic again, or if there's an increasing amount of climate change related events that are happening again, this is how we can use this preliminary research and advance it with what we have experienced or what we are experiencing. So no one entity can control that in our community. And I think that's just, it's really important to understand what we're looking for in terms of the data that we're going to really open up Pandora's box with in regard to what we're going to find. And in regard to how our artificial intelligence component, I don't even know if we touched on that yet, but how our AI is going to recognize the patterns between how our community, how our collective of researchers are interacting. So not only are you seeing yourself credited through a blockchain, but you're also seeing how artificial intelligence, it's telling you in real time that you should collaborate with other researchers of like mind. Blockchain also is about transactions and understanding how a distributed ledger works, so that you're not just looking at what I did, everybody's looking at what you did. And it's so that you can't go in and change it. You know, one person can go in and say, well, this is mine now. No. And it's rectifying a lot of societal issues if you hear the underlying pieces of this in regard to how we govern ourselves as collectives. But in this case, research is our currency. So we're protecting it and we're showing how it's spent and advanced and utilized amongst the collective. So in terms of outputs, you know, I think Anastasia asked for researchers to give our training module some examples and some data. That's an output that, you know, how we churn that and create from what you have contributed to us, that's an output. You know, how we collaborate with other researchers of like mind, that's an output. So we're growing with our technology in terms of what we can do. We'll leave that up to what technology does best, and that's, you know, tell us how we can improve. But I wanted to touch on how blockchain really collaborates, or is like the, you know, the ideology of our community and how that determines our outputs as well and how we measure them.
Absolutely. I think that's so exciting. And we're seeing kind of the benefit of blockchain and how it contributes to technological advancements and our educational opportunities, and making all of that accessible, especially for people who have, you know, been particularly marginalized in our past. And so go ahead, Anastasia.
Thank you. I just wanted to give a shout out to Chris Wright, who we have a legend in our room right now. She is literally the pioneer of intellectual capital. So I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I am definitely interested to see like your intake and any questions that you might have in regards to this, because I mean, as you see, like this is literally advancing how we take ownership of our own intellectual capital.
Awesome. Thank you. And as we're talking about advancement and looking forward to the future, how do you see the 1890 project platform evolving further to support and amplify the voices and the genius within HBCU institutions?
Really beginning with the collective. We had a chance to do this amongst peers at Alabama HBCUs last year, and the response was overwhelming. We got acknowledgments from state organizations that were interested in our tech. All of the HBCU presidents, I'll say the majority of the HBCU presidents, resonated with what we were troubleshooting, but also what we were creating. So we had 35,000 students at our disposal to really build a prototype for, and that's what we did. And right now we're in the process of amplifying that by expanding to all HBCUs, particularly our land grants, of course, in our public HBCUs, because we know we want to help demystify all of these underfunding issues and rectify, I should say, not demystify, but we know there's underfunding, severe underfunding at our public HBCUs that we want to help bring light to. So we start there. You know, we build the community as we said, but what we do next is based on the contributions of our researchers. So we need you. I'm a part of the research collaborative as well. So I'm excited to understand how our researchers research, if that makes any sense.
I think that is awesome. And I do want to make sure we give a little attention to a few of the questions we have in the chat. So we have a question from Tim Butts. He said, "Are you the administrative drivers of the informatics?" So whoever would like to take that.
Oh, Jennifer, you got it?
Yeah, but we can definitely tag team for sure. So our role as WENITE is to oversee and guide the strategic implementation of the informatics infrastructure. So we are doing this hand in hand with the researchers. Literally, the part that Anita was talking about, researchers add notes to contexts and references that they're reading. They're able to do the human connection between one person's research and another. And we just want to bring that into our training data for our AI algorithms. So it's literally based on the human experience. So yes, to answer your question in short.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say the same thing, so.
Perfect, perfect. And as before we come to a close, I also wanted to open the floor back up to Chris if there was anything that you wanted to say or ask a question about. I didn't want to bulldoze or miss that opportunity because we do have genius in the room with us. So I'd love to hear if you have any thoughts to share.
Me, Chris? Oh, that'd be a yes. Okay. I am mostly listening in. There is a research project that I am working on, but I would love to talk about it sometime in the back end with one of you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We have a question about our website. So Akil Bektemba visited the website and he has a question about 1890 plus. So Anita, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So that will be a subscription-based service in the future. But right now it is where we're going to be the collaborative space for our institutions or our researchers, we should say. Look forward to more information. And I think has to do with someone else's questions, but please subscribe to our LinkedIn. You can subscribe to the Geely Project, or you can follow any of us on LinkedIn because we repost all of our 1890 related content. And our team, not a lot, everyone on our team is publishing in this realm. So either AI, blockchain, but all related to HBCUs or minority researchers in that regard. So please follow us so you can chime in and give us input as well and feedback and help us build this community. But 1890 Plus is also going to be some of our products that we've been working on as well, some of our merchandise. Just look forward to it. It's not launched yet. We'll have a countdown ticker at some point. But right now, the 1890project.com should give you, or 1890project.com should give you a lot of the information and visually. If you're a visual learner, you'll understand the background of what we're doing. We also have a sign up block on there in our contact us, where if you want to schedule some time with our team, maybe, and I see you have experience with seasoned faculty at some institutions globally, we would love to pick your brain and hopefully we can navigate, through that route, but you can find some time on our calendar on our 1890 Project website. So those are 2 ways, or 3 ways, I should say: LinkedIn and our .com and our emails. We can drop our emails in the chat if that's cool as well, if you're an emailer. So those are some ways you can get in touch with us, and just we'll keep you posted about 1890 plus for our future subscription services.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been an incredible conversation. I want to close us out right before we finish up for the day. Anyone from our panel can answer, but what ways can people support the broader community? How can they support the aims of this program going forward? I know we talked a little bit about engagement and following our social media pages and staying in contact, but is there anything else they can do to support us or to stay engaged?
I would love to say, after you follow us, after you do all those things, it's really about reposting. It's really about sharing this information. We have, I mean, our community is so large, but until we all get on this digital ecosystem, it is still highly on word of mouth. So my biggest push would be like, just share it, a simple reshare, a simple repost, a simple comment on a post. That engagement does volumes. Like we just talked about that domino effect. So it does volumes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all of your insight, the contributions that you've given to us and then to our community at large. I think, oh, Anita, go ahead. Do
I
you
just
have
wanted
a
to
final
add
thought?
one more piece.
Go
I'm
for it.
sorry for interrupting, but this is why we're here. Support HBCU researchers. Like I said, HBCUs play in a very PWI dominant market when it comes to research. And the reasons why a lot of our faculty are underfunded is because their research doesn't get put out there. And we don't graduate enough PhDs at some of our institutions. So if you know someone who's looking to continue their education, especially in a PhD program, please encourage them to look at a HBCU. We have to start promoting the genius that we have in our community. PhDs are research-oriented degrees. So don't think of having your doctorate as just becoming a medical doctor of some sort. Understand it's also STEM, it's education and humanities, it's social sciences. We really need to support, especially after a pandemic, we really need to support our HBCU researchers.
Thank you so much. So I've added several links to the chat, so definitely go through, read through each of our different organizations, and then the 1890 project as a whole. As our panelist has introduced, we have a lot of really incredible things going on that are making an impact in our community, especially within the HBCU community every day. So we'd love to keep you all engaged and informed about what we're doing and what we're going to work on next and how you can stay involved. Thank you so much to BDPA for the platform and to our wonderful panelists again for your time and your insight. And I will hand this back over to Devin.
Thank you, Amara. Thank you to each of you for sharing this powerful initiative that's truly a game changer for our community and the world at large. So thank you for sharing with us today. And thank you for sharing information on how we can all engage. Look forward to seeing where this goes. We have to have you all back in the future to do a where are we now type conversation around this, because this is definitely going to be big. So thank you to Vanguard Consulting Group for partnering with us on this, and we'll have more conversations with you all throughout the year. I put a link in the chat, bdpa.org/tech in career talks, where you can find this recording after today. So this will be on our website along with all of our previous tech and career talks. And this will also be on our YouTube channel, which is National BDPA. So it'll be available. Go back and watch it. Share it with a friend who needs to hear it. Share it with somebody else. Doesn't matter. Share it, like, subscribe, click the link in the description, all the influencer things they say. But do all of that and run our numbers up. Thank you again. This has been great. To each of you, happy Women's History Month. I believe today is International Women's History Day as well. International Women's Day, right? Right. So yeah, we lined this up real good. Yep, that was on purpose. So just much love to all of the women out here who do so much to keep the world turning, and all you do for us. So thank you. We appreciate you. To everyone, thank you for listening. We will see you next time. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed.
Thank you. Bye-bye.